way for the Spanish Inquisition. Just a little coffee talk, okay, like butter.
And now, broadcasting live from the Elevation 5280 Sports Studios in Denver, Colorado, this is The Wheelhouse with Matt Mascarenas.
Want me to invite Matt?
Yeah, the whole gang, Matt included.
It's crazy. It really is crazy. And yeah, I agree. It's like, it kind of is a big pandemic. I don't want to get sick. I mean, I know you don't want to get sick. And so if you get it, it's just like if you get the cold. We're just trying to figure out how to stop it, essentially.
Way for the Spanish Inquisition. Just a little coffee talk, okay, like butter.
And now, broadcasting live on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, this is Elevation 5280 Sports with Matt Mascarenas.
Want me to invite Matt?
Yeah, the whole gang, Matt included.
For the first time in 6 seasons, the Denver Broncos have a quarterback that has won a Super Bowl, been to 2 Super Bowls, multiple Pro Bowls, and even been in MVP conversations. Yes, the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson, along with a brand new coaching staff in Nathaniel Hackett, to bring Broncos country back to glory. The theme of the season has been, let's ride. Well, ride, let's.
And Michael Spillett.
All work and no play makes Michael a dull boy.
Yeah, Matt, 6 years is one heck of a long time in football terms. We had to endure the likes of Trevor Siemian, who didn't have a bad first year at the helm. The likes of Joe Flacco, according to John Elway, was still in his prime. Also, according to John Elway, Case Keenum, otherwise known as Case Keenum. But now we have the third era, in my opinion, Matt, in Broncos quarterbacks history. We had the John Elway era, which lasted a very long time. The Peyton Manning era, won 1 Super Bowl, went to 2, and now it is the Russell Wilson era. We don't even think about those dark times in between.
Matt's an okay dude, but he's a dummy.
Michael!
Oh, that's funny. Michael!
Now, Matt and Michael are on.
Yes, and welcome back into Elevation 5280 Sports on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network here. We did a little remix there with the intros. Both have not aged well.
No.
As we'll tell you that. But hey, Jer Bear almost had Russ cooking those last 2 games. So
Right.
turns out it was Nathaniel Hackett's fault all along.
Who would have thunk it?
There you go. Elmer Fudd. And welcome into the program this evening. We are streaming live on the Rocky Mountain Sports Facebook page, as well as our Twitter. And excuse the abrupt ending on the music. I am controlling this on my phone, so my fingers are way too big for the little volume button. So there is that. You could follow the Rocky Mountain Sports Network on Instagram as well, at RockyMTNSN. And follow on Twitter, RM Sports Network. Follow Matt at Mascarenas1 and me at Michael Spillane, or at 5280 Sports Radio. We are streaming live on Twitter and our YouTube channel, which we're trying to get more on, which is at 5280 Sports Radio as well. Matt, how the heck are you? And happy wild card weekend. Well, it's a little in the past, but still got one more game tonight.
Super duper fun time. Wild card weekend. I had a blast this weekend, man. Those football games were pretty good. I was a little worried that some of those games were going to be blowouts, but that Miami Buffalo game was competitive. Obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chargers, Chargers going to Charger kind of situation. That was a kick-ass game. And that game last night, there was a lot of stuff going on in that game too. So super duper fun time wild card weekend. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And a lot of fun stuff is going down excuse me, this week, already happening today. We're going to get all the way into it, but holy smokes, man. What a time. The Nuggets won. They're on how many games in? They went 4 or 5 in a row, something like that. And they're smoking teams. And I'm sure we're going to get into that too. So a lot of fun stuff going on, and I'm excited to get into it. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, been a couple weeks. I'm sorry if I'm not on the screen right now. I'm sending all the media out, retweeting everything, but there I am. And we're going to have, a lot of topics to get to today. We named it it's not going to be Harbaugh. We'll get into that here in just a second. But also, you mentioned the Nuggets. So is this the Nuggets year? Can it be the Nuggets year? And also, we'll be recapping. I almost said recrapping. I don't know if that's possible, but recapping the Super Wild Card weekend that was, and one more game tonight. But starting with as we now we're trying to pinpoint Broncos coaches, and we named this episode. It's not Harbaugh. He has informed Michigan that in fact he is going back, Matt. So Harbaugh is off this table. This was earlier today. Santa Ano, the University of Michigan president, sent this out. I just got off the phone with Coach Harbaugh, and Jim shared with me great news that he is going to remain the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. This is fantastic news that I've communicated to our athletic director, Wade Manuel, go blue. And then soon thereafter, Matt, Harbaugh put this out. I love the relationships that I have at Michigan, coaches, staff, families, administration, President Santa Ano, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, and especially the players and their families. My heart is at the University of Michigan. I once heard a wise man say, you don't try to out happy, go blue. Yeah. So Harbaugh is off the table, man. That's one less guy we have to worry about, I guess. Also, another guy we don't have to worry about is Cliff Kingsbury, who bought a one-way ticket to Thailand and said, peace, y'all.
Bangkok's got him now. Him now. And she'll never let him go.
Never.
That Harbaugh stuff is crazy because, well, I mean, I don't know exactly. Like I felt like there was I really felt like for a second there that there was going to be more of an interest or more of an effort to where it was going to be closer to him actually getting a job in the NFL this season. You know, last year it felt like he did the kind of it felt like he did more of that to get more leverage onto Michigan, to get him a better deal, to get him more money. And then this year I felt like it was because of with the allegations that happened with the sanctions or whatever was going on with the NCAA. Usually when stuff like that happens, those coaches, I mean, I know Pete Carroll's instance in USC was a little bit different, but I thought like, oh man, that might be a situation where, yeah, he's actually going to go. But I always felt like that if he like he said, his heart's in Michigan. I always felt like if they were going to come back with some kind of money years, something to make him happy where they fire the AD, which they don't. There's a situation that they don't get along very well and they don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And if they could get all that figured out, he was going to go back. And that's exactly what happened. So he's gone. He's off the table. I really, like I said, there was a little small part of me there for a second that felt like this might be real. He might really be coming back to the NFL. But, you know, it happened like I thought it was going to happen. Michigan was going to come with what they wanted to make him feel wanted again there. So that's what he got. And I mean, do you think he was using all of this for leverage to get back there, to go back to Michigan? Was he, how serious was he? Cause I read a lot of things that hey, you know, he's really looking at it. He's serious. He's coming out. But I always felt like, man, if Michigan, like how serious is he? If Michigan comes and gives him exactly what he wants or makes him feel loved again, is he just going to go back to Michigan? Like, did you feel like this was kind of one of those situations where it was all about leverage?
I don't know, because did he really get anything out of going back to Michigan? Like, did they give him more money to go back? Because he was already under contract, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I guess he wanted, because his contract was less than Mel Tucker's. And I guess, I don't know if it was like his terms, but the
Midnight
year, at one point he was one of the highest paid coaches in the NCAA. And I think that he wanted that. There's like a lot of things have happened since then. And, you know, the accomplishments that he's had, all the things that he's done there with Michigan to this point, it felt like he wanted more money. They haven't came out and said numbers or terms, but they came together on something there. I didn't see any numbers out there. I didn't see anything like that, but they've came together on something. And what I've been hearing and reading is I think it might even include the AD being gone. And cause it sounds like he's going to be gone. I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow, this week, or sometime, but I think the AD is going to be gone and there's going to be some kind of money. I haven't seen what the number is going to be, but it's got to be something like that in that kind of package from what I've read so far.
Right. So maybe he was using it as maybe future leverage to go back to Michigan, and obviously Michigan did well these last couple of seasons. Came a little short, but still did well before, better than before Harbaugh got there. So, and I had this conversation with, people wanted Harbaugh to come to Denver because, he's turned a few college programs around, including
Right.
Michigan, Stanford. He went to the Super Bowl with San Francisco, his first or second year
Yep.
under the helm there. So he's done a lot of good, but he decides to stay at blue. So that's one guy off the table for the Denver Broncos. Now, do we turn to these two buddies?
Ooh.
Peyton and Papa
Ooh.
Vic. We might get that. And I don't know. It was a pretty good interview. Actually, Cowherd had Peyton on. I don't know if Sean Payton on. I don't know if that was today or yesterday in recent days, but he kind of explained everything. And he can begin interviewing tomorrow. I think Broncos have the first crack at it. Carolina has since entered the mix for Sean Payton services. I think Houston is in the mix. We were messaging back and forth, Matt, last Monday, a week from today, last week. It's called Black Monday. It's when all the coaches get fired. Only, we'll say 2.5 got fired because Lovie Smith got let go from Houston. He was set up to fail there. That was, and he stuck it in his owner's face, I guess, by going for 2 and winning that game and losing out on the first pick, and essentially helping his former team, the Bears, get the number 1 pick, which they'll probably screw up and draft a kicker or something. And then you have Kingsbury, who we just mentioned, get fired on Black Monday as well. And I don't know if you've been keeping up on the in-season Hard Knocks. So
I haven't.
Interesting to see Kingsbury go. They had a pretty cool J.J. Watt thing on there as well. Felt bad for Watt. Actually, DeAndre Hopkins, didn't know his background as well. Made me like D-Hop a little bit more too. But bad season for the Cardinals, and Kingsbury get the can, as we mentioned, telling teams he's not interested in coaching, at least this year. It seems, Matt, that all these guys who have taken a year off come back and really don't skip a beat. We've seen Doug Peterson in Jacksonville after last year's Urban Meyer debacle.
Yep.
And, they finish, I think they went 3-14 last season.
Yep.
Turn things around and win, not only make the playoffs, Matt, win a playoff game. That game was crazy. We'll get into that in here in just a bit. And we saw Sean Payton taking a year off this year. Kingsbury apparently taking a year off. He would have been an interesting candidate for me if he were interested, Kingsbury, but he was one of those, he was thrown into that, I guess, kind of that Mike McDaniel, and even you can throw Nathaniel Hackett and those young quote unquote geniuses.
The Wonder Kids. Yeah. The
Wonderkins. What did you make of, first of all, let's go back really quick to Black Monday. And I said 2.5 because Nathaniel Hackett got the can 2 weeks before that.
Right.
But what did you make of Black Monday? A lot of coaches actually kept their jobs.
Yeah. You never want anybody to lose their job, but it was surprising that you didn't see more. And some of them too, you look at the Carolina spot, Matt Rule was gone earlier in the season. So that one is going to have a vacancy that's open. The Kingsbury stuff the writing was kind of on the wall there. And I was interested to see how, a lot of these situations too is as they were kind of waiting there was teams that was in the playoffs. They're kind of waiting to see what happens. The Cowboys, the Ravens too. I'm really curious to see what happens with the Ravens. I'm not saying they're going to fire John over there, but he might take, like you just mentioned, like I could see, and Sean McVay, we were thinking Sean McVay was going to either step down or because he was talking about he wanted to go to the booth. Could we see something like that? Dallas Cowboys, if Dallas loses tonight, if they lose in a horrible, bad fashion, is McCarthy out? So there's still some teams I think that were in the playoffs which just sounds stupid, but it could sound stupid, but like, how could you go in the playoffs, be in the playoffs and get fired as a head coach? But we've seen that happen over and over again. So I think a lot of those teams that we were like, that could have had more people lose either by, the coach just saying I'm done or getting fired. Some of those teams are still playing in the playoffs that we could still see. I'm curious. I'm really curious to see what happens if Dallas loses tonight and Mike McCarthy gets if he keeps that job. Everybody's saying he's going to keep that job, but who knows? And then Brandon Staley, we're probably going to get more into it, but there's again another coach that might lose his job. I've been hearing and reading that he's not going to lose his job, but they're going to fire the offensive coordinator there. What's his Mike Lombardi or Lombardi something? I think I can't remember exactly what his name is, but they're going to fire that guy. So a lot of things, a lot of teams are holding on to coaches that maybe we thought that might get the axe, might get fired. Jeff Saturday in Indy, we don't know what's going to happen there. So there's still a lot of those coaches or those teams that were kind of like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm really curious about the Dallas situation tonight if they lose. So yeah, there could be more head coaches. And then Peyton, I mean, is Peyton gonna, from what I understand, he wants to sit and take all these interviews. If Dallas loses tonight and Mike McCarthy, even though Jerry Jones is saying he's good, if he gets fired, is that another job that Peyton might look at? So I'm sure we'll get more into Peyton, but there's a lot of stuff that's yet to be seen that could happen that's still out there with all these coaches positions, potential coaches openings.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Staley because he's been a name. They were actually looking at him last year to give him the boot, and then you go and lose not only the game, Matt, but give up a 27-point lead to Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. As we saw Trevor throw 4 interceptions, 3 to one guy. At one point, Asante Samuel Jr. had more catches and more yards than any Jacksonville receiver from Trevor Lawrence. So that was crazy. And then the rest is history. Lawrence turns it around and they win that game and erase it. You know who made a sudden appearance for me on the Jacksonville sideline now, Matt? And that's Mike McCoy. Had no idea he was involved with Jacksonville, but he was a former coach of San Diego not too long ago, and obviously his time here with the Denver Broncos. But yeah, a lot of people saying Brian Shaw, not Brian Shaw. I'm kidding. David Shaw.
Yeah.
A lot of people him.
Dude, that gave me chills for a second when you said Brian Shaw. Oh.
We don't want any more Shaws in Denver. I'll tell you that much. Dan Quinn's name still percolating. Also,
that's my guy.
Yeah, I'm centered around. I do like Sean Payton. Everyone's saying he's only got one Super Bowl. Yeah, well, he's the only coach on this list who has a Super Bowl.
Right.
And that's, with the exception of Mike McCarthy, if he gets the boot after tonight, if they lose. And we'll get into those games here in just a bit. But he's the only guy on this list, Matt, that has a Super Bowl championship.
Right. And I've said before too, we've talked about Sean Payton in the past. I've brought up Sean Payton as a perfect guy for Russ, because Russ, when Russ went on Dan Patrick's show and said, and came out and said, if I wanted to leave, these are the teams I wanted to go to. The Saints were one of them. The Broncos weren't on that list. The Saints were on that list, and because of Sean Payton and what he did with Drew Brees. Now, and we all know, Sean Payton came out earlier or kind of was not on the Denver job. And it makes you wonder too, like with this Penner group, is when they talked to Payton sometime last week, I believe they would talk to him on the phone or a virtual interview, or they did something. It's kind of telling that, hey, maybe this group is good at business, and they sold themselves to Sean Payton, because Sean Payton all of a sudden, he's like really like, hey, I like that ownership group. I'm intrigued by what we have with Russ. When before you thought that as soon as that Charger job came available, or the Rams job, or hell, even the Arizona job came available, that Denver wasn't even an option. When now it looks like Denver is the best option for Sean Payton. And I was all over that. I'm on that. And I know but the picks is something, those picks are something that kind of make me kind of think, do a double take, or kind of think about it differently, because if a coach is coming over here knowing they're going to give the team that he's going to is going to give up future consideration of players, even though picks are magic beans in senses. But if a coach is coming over saying they're going to have to give up a first round pick for me to come here to coach, like, does that, I mean, that's kind of, if it's kind of fishy, it's kind of weird to me on being okay with coming here when that team that you're going to coach is going to give up a first round pick to get you. You know what I'm saying? So I still think that would be the biggest home run, the biggest swing that the Broncos would take. They're talking about taking a big swing. Well, one of those swings have hit a foul ball or is gone with Jim Harbaugh. And now is Peyton that one last big swing unless something else happens? But that's what it looks like. Peyton could be that one last big swing, but I don't know if they're going to be able to throw money at him tomorrow when he comes here and has that interview, because it sounds like that, like you mentioned, that Cowherd interview that he sat down and did. He's going to take these interviews. He's going to go through the process. And it sounded like he's not even opposed to taking a year off, because next year those picks, they go down considerably. I think they might even go away. I don't think you have to give him a pick next year. So he might do that, go back in the booth. So there's a lot of stuff going on with that Sean Payton. So it's kind of making me kind of, uneasy and nervous with him.
Yeah. And I don't know. I would really like to see Sean Payton. And it's not even about the win-loss record, Matt, winning, right, being to a Super Bowl. It's the culture. And I know Doug Peterson in Jacksonville completely flipped that culture around, man. And you could tell by the way those guys went out and played the other day and come back from 4 interceptions and 27 points down at halftime and turn that ship around. And Doug Peterson has a Super Bowl to his background as well. 4 years coaching in Philly, man, look at how quick he turned Eagles around and took them to a Super Bowl and won it with a backup quarterback in his second year in Philly. So that just proves his pedigree as well. And I think that I really think that Sean Payton has that pedigree as well. He also has a little blunders along the way. We all remember Bountygate. He was suspended for that. Greg Williams was suspended for that. And he seemed to maybe reestablish his face in coaching and turn that kind of blemish around. So we'll see what happens with that. Dan Quinn, you mentioned, is your guy. I would like to see him as well. My question is, do the Cowboys let all these guys go? I don't know if they have a choice in the matter, but do they let all these guys go if they go deep in the playoffs?
Right. That's what you're kind of wondering. It's like, man, because you think Kellen Moore is probably going to be up for a head coaching job, probably.
Yeah, someone requested permission for him. I think it was Carolina. I don't remember.
Was it? I haven't heard if they got him. I know Dan Quinn was questioned or asked by somebody else. I can't remember what other team too, but maybe it was Texans. I don't know. But yeah, that's a good question. And also too, if they lose tonight, is Dan Quinn next in line for that job? Could Dan Quinn stay there? Because remember Jerry gave him a bunch of money last year to stay, or almost like, hey, I'll give you a bunch of money to stay here as defensive coordinator, and I want you to stay here. So would Dan Quinn say, "Nah, I'm sorry, Denver, you had your shot last year. I'm going to stay here if they lose tonight." Like, it all hinges. There's a lot of stuff that hinges on if Dallas wins this game tonight. And I really think a lot, even though Jerry Jones have come out and said, Mike McCarthy's safe. I don't know if they lose, if they go out and they just look like total crap, and Mike McCarthy, he's got his play sheet in here. He's got his pen. He's just looking nervous. Doesn't know what he's doing. Eyes are going all kinds of places. If he goes out and does that, that could be it. That could be it for Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. And we'll see what Jerry does. Jim Irsay, speaking of owners, came out and said that they interviewed. So Jeff Saturday is really not permanent. He's definitely not the solution as we're seeing. Jim Irsay came out and said that they actually interviewed the dude from Kansas City who's been passed up on a bunch. And
Bieniemy?
Yeah, Bieniemy got interviewed by I think he's gotten permission, or he's gotten requests from a couple teams. And I know Jim Irsay put out that the Colts have requested permission, obviously, from the Chiefs to interview him. So Bieniemy might be on the move from the Chiefs finally.
Yeah.
Nothing from the Broncos, nothing from his former college stomping grounds. Why? I mean, I think we mentioned this every year that his name's thrown around, but what he does with Pat Mahomes and that offense. I know Andy Reid has a lot to do with it, but he's been the OC there for 4+ years. What is up with this guy?
It's weird. It's weird. And I think that I always hear that when you talk about Bieniemy, well, the book's out on him, that everybody knows what he's about. Everybody knows what he's likes. And I'm like, well, why not give that dude a shot? I know that they say he gets it. He wears out his welcome quick and he kind of rubs people along the wrong way. But I could point out a bunch of coaches that probably do the same thing. I mean, you think Bill Belichick, even though Bill Belichick has a lot of pelts on the wall, like John Fox would say, there's a lot of stuff that he's got to earn that right. But Bieniemy's been a part of a lot of offenses that have been successful, and whether or not Andy Reid or Pat Mahomes really, but it's very, very curious. Like I'm curious what kind of book is out on this guy that he keeps getting passed over for these jobs, or he'll go and do the interview and then that's that. So I don't know. I would like to see him get an opportunity just to be like, okay, let's see what this guy can do. Let's see because there's got to be some kind of way that he coaches. So he's got to have some kind of philosophy. And I could think that could benefit a team, that could benefit a franchise, an organization that needs that kind of, philosophy or whatever it is. But it's very, very curious to see when he gets passed over a lot on these coaching cycles.
Yeah. And you mentioned he wears out his welcome quick, but he's been welcomed in Kansas City for a couple of AFC titles and a Super Bowl. So he's not worn out his welcome there, and maybe he just gets his way by giving Andy Reid cheeseburgers. I don't know. So,
or he lets him draw on his face. I don't know.
And a lot of hot name. Maybe he's a bath salt guy. Yep, but he's
those commercials are great. They're stupid, but they're great.
Yeah, and another hot name on the market right now is from San Francisco. DeMarco Ryan's name is being thrown out by almost every team. Broncos. I think they already interviewed him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's got the interview. I think Carolina is interviewing him. And how come, really quick here, Matt, how come certain teams, is it because they had a bye week that they're allowed, but San Francisco didn't have a bye week? And maybe they've requested, because some people have gotten interviewed in the playoffs, I feel like.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to request permission. I don't know. But Ryan's name is a hot commodity as well. Evero is his name's being thrown out there as well. The Broncos have said that they really wish, or I think it was Justin Simmons and or Pat Surtain that said they really want Evero to stay on as the defensive coordinator. But what's going to happen if Sean Payton becomes a coach and Papa Vic comes back? What's going to happen there? So what do you make of DeMarco Ryan's name being tossed around for a lot of these openings?
It's bad timing for the Broncos, man, because I don't know if they want to do the first timer head coach in that sense again. But that dude, if they were like, I just feel like it's bad timing because I like that guy. He checks a lot of boxes, checks so many boxes, and he brings a culture. He brings a culture. He's a former player, so he's got that respect there. And like I said, he brings a culture there with him, a winning culture from San Francisco. And I like a lot of things that he does as a coach, and I like a lot of things that I hear about him. But I mean, if we're going to go that route, you mentioned it right there, Evero. If we're going to go the first time head coach, I would go Evero because and it's not even like he's only a first timer in title. A first time head coach in title, but he's been here. There's continuity there. He knows these guys. These players know him. They kind of get an idea of what he wants, what his philosophy could be. That's already in place. That's already here. So that if they're going to go the first timer head route again, that would be a great one to go. And that he would be my number two option. If we can't get Dan Quinn, then I would love to see if they give him the shot, give Evero the shot. But I'm just nervous. I mean, have you seen what he said these past couple of weeks? And he didn't take the interim job because he wanted to focus on the defense, but also there were some things that he didn't like or whatever. He didn't mention them, but he didn't like with what happened with Hackett. And we got to remember that this coaching is a good old boys league in a lot of cases. And Hackett brought him here And I would think if Evero got an opportunity to be a head coach, his first opportunity to be a head coach, I think he would return the favor for Hackett and say, hey, come be my OC. But I don't know if that's going to happen here if they give him the job here. I highly doubt that. So, and when he got asked, when Atlanta reached out to Denver to request to interview him for their DC position, that stuff just doesn't happen. That they don't just wake up and be like, hey, I want to see if this guy's interested. I think there's some back channel stuff going there with Evero trying. I just don't know if he's 100% on staying here with his Broncos because of the whole Hackett situation. I could be wrong, and he could just be, going through some feelings right now because that's his buddy. But there's a lot of things that I've heard him say, and then things that have happened, and the Broncos block that, of course, which means they want him here. And I think I would love to have him here. But I'm just curious if there's any issues there with Evero wanting to be here with the Broncos.
I don't know. I feel like Hackett snuck in Kingsbury's suitcase or he already went to Thailand first because he disappeared off the map.
He was gone, wasn't he?
Yeah, he hid in a hole somewhere, and he's just completely out of the picture. And maybe that's what he needs. Again, a lot of these guys taking a year off, coming back even better. So maybe that's what Nathaniel Hackett needs. We'll see what happens with Outman as well. Is he going to stay on the staff depending on who's brought in to be the head coach? So a lot of names, a lot of things to consider. Obviously, Sean Payton, the biggest, hottest name out there right now. And as you mentioned, your pick, Dan Quinn, Harbaugh's out of the picture. DeMarco Ryan, guys like that. What's going to happen with Mike McCarthy tonight? Will Brandon Staley stay on in San Diego? I think that's the second time I've said San Diego now.
I don't think it matters at this point. They still do the same. They still do the Charger crap,
San Diegans. They definitely chargered it up. Really quickly here before we change topics, what do you make of the Raiders doing Derek Carr dirty? We haven't had a chance to talk about our old pal too, Josh McDaniels.
Oh man, he just loves to just take quarterbacks and run them through the freaking grinder if they're not Tom Brady. And now they're trying to get Tom Brady. This feels like Jay Cutler all over again, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know if McDaniels saved us from Jay. I feel like I like Jay. I was pissed off about the whole Plummer stuff, but I don't know if he saved us from Jay because I think I like Jay. But Derek Carr, man, he did some pretty good stuff last season. And I don't know if you want to, it was a mix. I felt like it was more Carr than I can't even remember his name. It was like Rich Camacho, something like that. But the Italian guy, I mean, he was that whole deal, what Derek Carr did last season. And then they did him that way this year. And then you had Stidham come in. I mean, Stidham, man, that I feel like that was as dirty as you can do a dude in that situation. And I thought McDaniels had changed his ways, but I mean, maybe he has, I don't know. You didn't hear more stuff coming out of that locker room, but when they got rid of, and then imagine Devontae Adams. He went to the Raiders specifically to play with Derek Carr. I don't think if you would have said, hey, do you want to go play with him for 1 year and we'll trade you and we'll do everything will stay the same, but he's only going to be there for 1 year. I don't think he would have went. I think it would stay with Aaron Rodgers. So that was crazy what Josh McDaniels did there. And you know what? I don't like as an anti-fan of I'm not a fan of the Raiders. So it's nice to see go ahead, Josh. Like, what are we going to call it? The Josh dust storm? I didn't know hurricanes happened in Vegas. Is that what we're going to do with it? We're going to do some different kind of deal.
Do they have tornado? What do they have there? Just is it
drought? Droughts, hot weather, heat, the heat wave of the McDaniel heat wave.
Yeah, so that was crazy, and it's no coincidence that Devontae Adams went on to have 100 and something catches, 1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Like that. That just doesn't happen unless you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers and or Derek Carr.
And Josh Jacobs too. Like, what's his future?
Both of those guys.
They haven't picked up his option. Like,
both of those guys were all pros this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. The one guy you were talking about, Rich. I don't remember his last name. Rich. It does sound like Capaccio or something strange.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get some comments on it. But he disappeared too. And
Yeah.
I don't know how they didn't keep him on as something. Maybe they did, and we're just not seeing him. But I
Right.
don't know how he wasn't brought up in
I'll have to
some
look at
kind
it.
of
I
some
think
kind
he's
of.
on Philly staff.
Well, good for him because he went to a way better situation. But and look at the Philadelphia Phillies. We talk about first-time head coaches. Sirianni up in Philly, was doing rock paper scissors his first year, and then he gets the number one seed in
Right.
Philadelphia. So this coaching carousel has been crazy and strange these last couple of seasons.
Yeah, it has. That's funny you say that because I remember when he got that job, I was so excited because some of the things that he did. I'm like, this guy's going to be him and MDC in Campbell in Detroit. I was excited to see what these guys were going to do because of what they started to do in their press conference. Like, oh man, we got to watch this. But Sirianni, he pulled back. He became the head coach, and that's all he did. He was the head coach, which Daboll did. With the Giants, we saw the Giants beat the Vikings last night. Oh, poor Vikings. We saw those guys lose. We saw the Giants do that to the Vikings. And I mean, with Daboll, again, and I mean, I hate to be this guy. Mike McDaniel, they almost ousted the Buffalo Bills, him and the Dolphins with a third string quarterback. Brian Daboll beat the Minnesota Vikings. Doug Peterson upsets the Chargers. Those three guys got no interviews from the Broncos last year. None. They didn't interview those guys at all.
And they said, and the Broncos, I don't remember that Peyton Penner interview a couple weeks ago, Matt. They said they had a big net. They interviewed 10 guys. Just none of them were the right guys. And yeah, and we mentioned the Chargers. The Vikings definitely Vikinged.
Oh God,
themselves. 4th and 8, 3 yard. The memes are all over the place if you haven't seen them. Especially the impractical jokers. 4th and 8. Hey, Kurt, throw a 3-yard pass to end the game. Total. I mean, that was just perfect Kirk Cousins' way to go out on the season. But we'll get into that here in a second. But we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how Brian Daboll wasn't interviewed by guys. Kevin O'Connell. It's a weird. I feel bad for him because Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but he shrinks, man. Just shrinks in these huge games.
He does. And there were some times where I was like, okay, he's vibing, he's making some plays. He's throwing good balls. I mean, he's working outside the numbers. And then he comes and just throws what are you throwing it there for? What are you doing? What are the decisions that are going through your head, dude? And like, again, the Vikings going to Viking. I'm not sad about it. It's like, all right, go ahead. Just keep doing that. I mean, it's sad because the Packers aren't in the playoffs, but from that perspective, and I mean, you're with the Bears fans, but you know how the NFC North feels about each other with watching the Vikings. If there's any team that I love to see screw up more than the Raiders is the Vikings. I mean, it's just like, they can't get right. They cannot get right. But I think O'Connell's the right guy there. I think he's good there. And I don't know if they got a Kirk Cousins problem. I don't know what they're going to do there, but who knows, man. But yeah, Kirk Cousins, this poor guy. I kind of feel bad for him.
Imagine if Teddy didn't tear his ACL.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Would they even have Kirk Cousins on this team?
Probably not. Because Teddy was rolling, man.
Crazy to think about. And he tore his ACL against the Broncos, if you can bring it full circle. So
right.
There you go. As we wait on this coaching search 2023 for a couple teams, so we'll see where the pieces land, and hopefully we'll have either Nick Ferguson on, or maybe Lindsay will join us again for that episode if and when the Broncos fill that coaching search once again. Jim Harbaugh off the table. He's returning to Michigan, and we will see Sean Payton be interviewed tomorrow. Teams can start interviewing him, and I think Denver is first on that list. Really quickly before we change topics to the Nuggets, Matt, you said he's going to take all of these interviews. Do you see any scenario in which he takes an offer, or is he going to, in fact, listen to all these teams? You mentioned the Broncos might not have a lot to throw at him. At least throw at the Saints pick-wise. And I think they did get a first-round pick for Bradley Chubb, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they kind of have that in their back pocket. And Penner said that, the Walmart people cash is not going to be an issue. So I don't think that's a problem. They have the first round pick, which they needed to get Chubb. And hindsight, Matt, I think they did that for this
Yeah.
situation.
I
think
I
they,
I, I
yeah.
agree. And you listen to if you've seen the Colin Cowherd interview today, they mentioned compensation, and he said, mid to late round pick in the first round. And that's exactly what the Broncos have, because I don't know if you noticed this, but Cowherd said the Broncos don't have a first round pick because they traded them all to Seattle. And then the conversation went on. And then that's when, Cowherd asked him, what would the compensation be? And he goes, well, we're not there yet, but I would imagine from the Saints perspective, he talked to Rooney or there earlier in the day. He said, I would imagine that it would be somewhere in the mid to late pick in the first round. And then right after that, he said, and the Broncos, they do have a pick that they got from Miami from the Chubb deal, but it's San Francisco's pick. And where's San Francisco's pick probably going to be? Late round,
30.
because who knows, they might go to the Super Bowl. So that was kind of fortuitous how he said that. So yeah, I do think, money talks, man. Money talks. If they throw, what's the number, like 25 million? If they throw between 25 and 27.5 or something like that million at him
a year.
Is that what what they're doing?
I was going to say, I think I think they're going to throw John Gruden type numbers at him, like a 10-year, 100 mil.
If they do that, then because like money talks, man. It would be hard. It would be hard for a guy like that to leave that, to get up and say, no, I'm going to keep looking. It would be difficult because the only other team, the way I understand it, is Carolina. Carolina can throw money out at him like that. And they just got in the race. They just scheduled an interview with him. So that would be very, very curious and I think Carolina, I don't know where their number one pick is. I'm sure it's ahead of the Broncos, obviously, because Carolina's out. So, man, money talks, man. Money talks. And that's a lot of money to get up and walk away from. So I think, anything's possible in that situation when there's money being talked about like that. Anything's freaking possible.
Yeah, I very much strongly think that the Broncos, I don't want to say stole the first round pick from Miami for Chubb, but they were gearing up for this type of situation to offer the same. And was Chubb traded before Hackett got fired?
Yes.
Honestly, I think that writing was on the wall. They knew they could get a first round for Chubb. They knew they were going to fire Hackett, and they knew Sean Payton was available. I think it all fell into place for him. Now the last domino to fall, Matt, is actually obtaining his services to be their head coach. And
right.
I think this is all part of the plan.
And remember the Bolins, when they would have people come in like free agents, something like that, when they came in to visit, like the whole thing was Shanahan. The whole thing was they're not leaving. Like they don't get out of here. They don't, if they come, they stay, they sign them. If they leave, they're not coming back. That was the whole thing. So I think they're definitely the Broncos could, if they're taking that approach, then their mindset is they're not going to leave let Sean Payton leave here tomorrow without becoming the next Denver Bronco head coach. Now, the conversation, all that stuff has come in, but like you said, like they could take that big swing. That could be the big swing of the sword tomorrow. They throw him money. They don't let him leave. And it could happen. I was reading that some of the guys think that they put the over under like on the 24th, that's when the next when we can find out who the head coach is going to be. But like you make a great point. They bring it up. Like, I don't know if they're going to let him leave. I don't know.
Yeah. And the Saints will take the first round pick. I think no matter where it is,
100%.
as you mentioned. And so, yeah, we'll just see what after tomorrow brings.
Really, what's that pick going to be? What's that pick going to end up being? A late round running back, late round receiver, late round O-lineman that you can get in the second round?
Well, who knows what they're going to do with their quarterback situation. I'm talking about the Saints because, depending on Jameis Winston, who I don't know, his career might be over. And I'm not saying that because of his antics. I'm saying that because of his injuries. 2 years now. Yeah. He's missed 24 games in 2 years, Matt, because of his knees. And Andy Dalton's obviously not the solution there, so they may look to draft a quarterback. Michael Thomas, they said, is on the verge of his way out of New Orleans, so they might be in rebuilding mode. And is it really going to be Taysom Hill? Is he going to be your starting quarterback in 2023? I don't know.
Yeah.
So a lot of decisions there in the Big Easy. So we'll see what tomorrow brings, Matt, if the Broncos let him out the door. So it's going to be a very, very interesting day. I think he has a couple interviews tomorrow, does he not?
I don't know exactly how many he has tomorrow. He might have Houston tomorrow too. He might have Houston tomorrow on the same day. I can't remember exactly. I know he's got Carolina later in the week and then Arizona too at some time. I think he's going to go to talk to Arizona, but I know Carolina's later in the week.
And didn't he turn down somebody? I don't remember who this is. It was a few days ago, but I think he turned down somebody. And I don't know if it was the Colts.
I have to look. I don't know. Was it Indy?
Was it the Colts?
It might have been the Indy.
Because
it might have been Indy. Or he just had like just a meeting or whatever with them. I don't know, but yeah, I think he did. It was not I'm not interested in that one. Yeah. Might have been the Colts. We have to look at that. We'll get our crack staff on it.
The Colts, yeah, if I do it, I'll disappear, which the viewers might like anyway. But the Colts are really the only team who are not tied to his name, so it might be the Indianapolis Colts, but they are requesting the services of Eric Bieniemy, so we'll see what happens with that. Tomorrow, big day for Denver Broncos country because they will be interviewing Sean Payton. Really quickly here, Matt. We're kind of going from football to basketball to football, but the Denver Nuggets have won 6 straight games. They knocked off Orlando yesterday, which was a way closer game than it probably should have been. They'll host Portland tomorrow. Then they have a back-to-back, Matt. They have 5 straight home games: Orlando, Portland, Minnesota, Indiana, and OKC. And then they go on a mini little road trip there, but they knock off Orlando last night. Jokic hits a game-winning 3, and that guy's just, can it be 3 straight MVPs? I don't know. And just first place in the West, Matt. Is this? We saw it last year with the Avalanche. Their window, this core group that the Avalanche had, and they're struggling a bit right now, but everyone's coming back healthy. The Avalanche scored a touchdown yesterday, Matt, as they beat Ottawa 7-0. And then they knock off your Red Wings in the background.
I know.
Was it 6-1 today? It was an early game. It was weird. Early game. But
it was an odd game too.
Yeah. And I think it was at Ball Arena. That was just an interesting game to have in the Mountain Time Zone. I think it was like a 1 o'clock game or something strange. But they knock off Detroit today 6-1. And are the Nuggets in that window? Because it's been a few years now, and with this core group, interchanging a few here and there, but you have your big 3/big 4 now. Can we call it a big 4 with Aaron Gordon?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because the KCP position is interchangeable, but when you're leading the league in 3-point percentage, you got to be doing something right. But is this the window, Matt? 31-14 in the West, first place. Is this the window? Is this the year?
Absolutely it is. In the way they're rolling right now, and I said that my biggest worry and the biggest threat to this team is health. If somebody gets hurt, I mean, if they stay healthy, Charles Barkley said it earlier today that this is the best team on the planet right now. The Denver Nuggets are, and they're blowing everybody out. They're, and Aaron Gordon even said it too last night. The press conferences after the game, Michael Malone comes in and he, uses some expletives and are you not entertained? And holy, and Aaron Gordon said that maybe that's like, last year, that's a game that they lose. That's one that they lose. They were up big early. And then here comes Orlando come back. And the Nuggets were depleted last night. Bones is hurt. Kankar was hurt. Who else was out there? Somebody else was out too. I think wasn't able to play last night, but they were down a little bit of their rotation players. So those are, they're winning games that they normally would lose in the past. Aaron Gordon made a great point. And with the emergence of Aaron Gordon, I think he has been a catalyst to a lot of this that they are where they are at right now. And with the rotation that Malone is dialing in, that bench, there is not a hole. You're trying to scrub out minutes for a rookie in Brown, who is a monster. And Michael Malone usually does not play rookies, and he's trying to find minutes for this guy, but there's none. Everybody's contributing, even freaking DeAndre Jordan, when he came in, he started for Joker when he had the wrist injury, the wrist rest. That's what I was calling it. The wrist rest.
He didn't want any of Markieff Morris's smoke. That's what
he didn't want none of that smoke. And they go and they beat them. They go and they beat the freaking Clippers. The Clippers are 2-7 against the Nuggets since the bubble, since all that mumbo jumbo. They go and beat them without Joker. So that's a game usually in the past you look at, and that's okay. That's okay. That team can lose that one, but they don't. They go and win. So I don't think that Memphis. Right now there is nobody in the West, and I don't want to say this because I don't want John Morant to hear me, because he hears stuff like this. I don't know what it is. He hears stuff like this.
Yeah, if you want to go viral, you jump with John Morant,
dude. Ja is an unbelievable player, but that team is a year or two, maybe even 3 years away. I don't know. They need another piece. That Memphis team. And I don't know if Golden State's always hanging around. They're trying to get healthy. They're going to be there. They're going to be somewhere around there. Phoenix, I don't know what they're doing. Are they going to be around there? I don't know. But everything is pointing to that, and that this is their year. This is their season to be dominant in this Western Conference. And again, like I said, if they stay healthy, I 100% think that this team is playing in the finals and representing the Western Conference in the finals. Without a doubt, I think this is their year. Without a doubt, I think that yes, this is the window. I don't know if it's going to close after next season. I don't know. But right now, I do think this is the window. And I think they're in it. Let's jump through it. Let's go to the finals. Let's win a championship. Shut everybody up. And Joker gets a 3-time MVP and a finals appearance. I don't know what these guys are going to say. I don't know what these Joker haters are going to say anymore.
You know what's frustrating though, because they go and lose. They go and lose to Minnesota. They just creamed Boston the night before, back to back. Maybe that's why, because they beat Boston at home, travel to Minnesota, lose, and then they come back and destroy the Clippers. By the way, 122-91, beat a very good Cleveland team by 20 points. Lakers are starting to kind of make their run, but they kill them by 20. They beat Phoenix by 30. They go to the Clippers a few days later and beat them without Jokic by 12. And then they beat Orlando last night. I mean, this has got to be – this has to be it yet, Matt. And like we mentioned with, when Jokic pushed Morris and gave him whiplash and he missed the whole rest of the season. I was just kidding about Jokic not wanting Morris to smoke the other night because he was out with a wrist injury. Load management.
And I'm okay with that with Joker, man. He needs it. If there's a dude in the league that needs load management, it's him.
Yeah. So this team is this is it, Matt. They finally got all the right pieces. I feel bad for Gary Harris not playing with Orlando. He's been hurt since before he got traded there. It was kind of cool to see Bull getting the starting run for Orlando, but guess what, Matt? Didn't fit on this team.
No.
And you mentioned, wasn't it Chancha? Getting some minutes. We seen, like you mentioned, Christian Brown getting some minutes. These are the pieces. This is it, Matt. This is the. I think it was Barkley too. You mentioned best team on the planet.
Yep.
I think he said they're the deepest team as well, and I think Shaq seconded that by saying this is the deepest team right now.
And do you think, like we talked about Zeke Naji in the past, like we talked about how his body's transformed. He's getting leaner. He's not as thick, but he has stepped up a lot in these past couple weeks. Like, are we looking at Zeke potentially filling that 4-5 role? That he can come in and maybe play alongside Joker, or maybe be that guy that's going to give Joker a rest. I still think they're going to use DeAndre Jordan as more of a meat shield in certain cases, but I don't know. Is Is Zeke finally that dude that we've been hoping Zeke can be?
He reminds me a lot of a young Nene, to be honest with you. But I don't think he's the type. I don't think his style matches. I think he's just good off the bench. I don't think his style matches when Jokic is on the court either. So I don't know. That just seems like it to me, Matt. And looking at the Western Conference, you mentioned you don't know if anybody can really run with the Nuggets in the Western Conference. We brought up Memphis. They're only a half game behind the Nuggets right now. Nuggets 30. I said they were 31-14. They're 30-13. My mistake there. How about Sacramento climbing the ranks, Matt? Fourth, New Orleans third, Dallas fifth, Clippers. And then in the play-in tournament, as it stands right now, Golden State, Utah, Minnesota, and Portland. Honestly, Matt, with a healthy Zion, I think that New Orleans could do some damage in the playoffs as well. But of course, like Zion does, he's hurt again. But man, he was tearing it up. I mean, the speed he gained. A lot of people always mention his weight, but the speed he somehow added to his game, or always had, but we never saw it, and we saw flashes of it. But just the ability to get down court in basically 3 strides and you're at the rim is just incredible. So, but besides maybe a healthy Zion team, Memphis, I don't really see anybody, like you mentioned, that can stop the Nuggets. The only, in the East, the only team I can really see giving them fits in the East is maybe Milwaukee, and they sit third right now. Maybe
right,
Philadelphia.
They're injured too, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. They beat Boston already. Brooklyn's a wild card to me, Matt. You never know what they're going to bring.
Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant.
Kyrie Irving has 40 points one game, and then he has 12 the next. I don't know what they're all about. I couldn't even name you another guy besides Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant.
Right.
But I don't watch their games at all. I guess Boston would be the team to get through. Obviously, they sit number 1, but I think Milwaukee matches up well with Denver just because it would be Giannis versus Joker at that position.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I'm hoping, and when it comes down like the Eastern Conference, they're going to eat each other up, because Eastern Conference is you could look at it and say they might be better than the West this year just because of the injury depletion that everybody's hurt. The Lakers are doing what they're doing, Anthony Davis, and the Warriors, the only team in the West that Zion team, because you have CJ McCullough and what Zion and all those guys were doing, and Brandon Ingram's over there, what he was doing, that's a team of guys that are veteran guys that have been around, like CJ McCollum, stuff like that can kind of corral or let Zion loose when he needs to get loose. And when you look at the East, I would love to see the Celtics. I would love to see the Nets, the Bucks. But the team I want, and you could say, hey, Matt, don't you might get what you ask for. I want to beat the Sixers, man. I want these Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic to play the Sixers in the finals and beat them like a drum, beat Joel Embiid like a drum in the finals, and put to bed all of this Joker Embiid bull crap and just finally put it to bed. I like what the Sixers are doing with Harden and Embiid. And when I look at them, like you mentioned, you got to look at those teams over there that have these superstars. The Bucks with Giannis, the Nets with Durant, and whatever Kyrie's going to do and what Kyrie can do. And the Celtics are up there number 1. And I think the Celtics, ultimately when it comes down to it, the Celtics are going to be there. But man, I'm looking, and the Cavaliers, man, that team too, that team's scary with what Donovan Mitchell can do. But you look at the only team over there that has something for Joker, and that's Embiid. And that's what I want to see, is that's a team that I wouldn't say scares me, but when it comes to what they have that you can counter what the Nuggets have, and that's Embiid with what Joker can do. And I want to see those two go at it. I really want to see those two go at it. And like I said, I might get what I'm asking for, and I might regret that, but that's kind of the thing I want. But the Eastern Conference is going to be really exciting this season. I think, to watch, to see what team comes out of that. When the Bucks get healthy, and if the Nets can keep doing what the Nets are doing, I don't know. It could be anybody's ball game in that conference for sure. And the Cavaliers, man, they're like one of those up and those like the Sacramento. You look over in the Western Conference, they're like kind of like the Sacramento situation, with the Cavaliers and what they're doing. But that Eastern Conference is pretty freaking loaded.
Yeah, and Jody just commented, "Watch out for Dallas. Luka has been on fire."
He needs a Robin. He needs somebody else.
I was just gonna say, if it were to be Dallas somehow to match up with Denver, I mean, you're gonna give Luka his points and just shut down everyone else. I mean,
yep.
You're gonna throw KCP and or MPJ, probably not MPJ.
And
you're
Brown,
gonna throw
you can send Brown at him. Both Browns at him.
Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, all the Browns, Larry Brown. And you're just gonna throw all the guys at him, especially KCP, who's long and lengthy. And we didn't know he was known for his 3-point shooting, but before this season, he was known as a defensive guy. So
right,
you would throw him on there. So
and that's what the Nuggets have needed. They needed to defend the wings, and they got great defenders on the wings. Now they got 3 or 4 of them that they can look to when they need it. And then Bones, man, Bones is the wild card in all of this. Because you never know what he's going. He could come off the bench and give you 30, 40 points off the bench. He can go nuclear. Bones is one of those dudes, man. That just like the Nuggets, and that's like the last gem from Tim Connolly that he gave us was Bones Highland, because that dude is one of those that can change a playoff series. Because he can just go so nuclear, like Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray's a nuclear kind of a dude. So is Bones, and that's just I'm really really excited to see how that happens, how that plays out in the playoff situation.
Yeah, so it'll be an exciting race to the finish. We got a few more months of NBA basketball, so we'll see what happens. But I agree, Matt. This got to be the year. This has to be it.
Man. It feels like it too, doesn't it? Feel like it?
Let me ask you this. Would you concede an NBA championship for another Jokic MVP, or we need this chip this season?
So this is the way I would concede that is if they were in the finals.
Are you taking both?
I would take both of them. That'd be even best. That'd be even better. But if they were in the finals and they lost in the finals, I just think that if they don't make if this team doesn't make the finals this year, it's a bust. It's a bust. It's finals or bust. I'm not going to say ship or bust yet, because I really like that's my thing. I want them to be in the finals, because that would and I don't know. I don't think they need validation, but that would validate everything the Denver Nuggets have done up to this point, and especially what Nikola Jokic has done, because the past 2 seasons it's been all about him, and that would validate everything, a finals appearance.
Wouldn't it be crazy too to have back-to-back championship seasons from the roommates at Ball Arena, from the SAC?
Oh man, from the SAC.
They were marinating in the SAC together, and look what happened.
Right, left.
Yeah. So there you go. Really quickly before we get out of here, we're going to switch gears back to NFL. It was a crazy super wild card weekend. We saw the 49ers put up 41 against the Seahawks. Glad the gum chewing Pete Carroll is out of the playoffs. Good Geno Smith story, but I'm glad they're out with all the Russ talk.
Yep.
49ers, man, they're scary. They're my pick to make it to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. We have the Jaguars, as we kind of touched on, take out the Chargers 31-30. Good to see Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence make it that far. And the Dolphins, this is the first time since '99 all Florida teams have made it to the playoffs. We'll see what the Buccaneers do tonight against the Cowboys. But the Bills hold on against the Dolphins with, like you mentioned, third string quarterback for the Dolphins. And he was picked, how about this, Matt? Picked the pick before Purdy. So he was like Mr. Irrelevant Jr., I guess.
Yeah.
He was the second to last pick in the draft, which is crazy to think about. Yeah. What was your take from some of these games? I kind of knew the 49ers. I didn't know they were going to run over the Seahawks, because it was a close game until halftime. We kind of touched on Jaguars, Dolphins, Giants over the Vikings, and then the Bengals late last night hold on against the Ravens in a a punching match because those NFC North or AFC North teams always beat each other up. But 49ers, man, they're scary. They're my pick to make it out of the NFC.
I'm right there with you. I didn't see the NFC is, in my opinion, it's Philly and or San Francisco. It's hard to count out Tom Brady, but until he loses, until he's out, it's hard to count him out. But I'm with you with the 49ers and the Eagles as well. I want to see how this carries over. So as far as that goes, that's what I'm most concerned with those guys is the San Francisco 49ers and Philadelphia Eagles. And outside of, I've already talked about a couple times what happens in Dallas, what happens with Dallas tonight, this game tonight. I really think that carries a lot if Dallas loses and if Tom Brady wins. If Tom Brady's out, like, does they start I know the free agent process, all that crap has to happen later in the year, but that's a very curious situation. You look at the AFC. Buffalo made me, that was a little nervous. Like, I felt like Josh Allen, I felt like they were in his head. I don't know if it was just the Dolphins. That was the third time they played this year. Sorry. And I don't know if that was the stemming from that being a rival, like a AFC East kind of a deal, but Josh Allen looked a little shook. Josh Allen didn't look right. The defense, the Buffalo defense it didn't look as dominant, and that was a home game in the cold, and it just didn't look as like it. There's a little bit more holes, I think, with that Buffalo Bills team than we had thought, and I think that they may be the third best team in the AFC because Joe Burrow, man, I just like what he can do, and seeing what he did already, what he's done already. I like what Joe Burrow's doing. And I think that if it's a situation, because how does it work out now I haven't looked at the schedule. Is KC in Buffalo playing next week, or is it Cincy and KC?
I think it's Cincy, KC.
I have to look at that. Let's get our crack staff on it, huh?
Let me disappear while I look this up.
Let me see. No, it's the Jaguars and the Chiefs and the Bengals and the Bills. So we get to do it again. We get to do the Bengals and the Bills again. And I'm going with the Bengals, man. I'm going with the Bengals. I think they beat the Bills. And just from what I saw Miami do to them, it just made me kind of like it, like, especially with Josh Allen, like he looked a little ding, like there was some dings in that armor mentally, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And KC, they've came down the stretch here, what Denver did to them and stuff like that. There's a little holes there, but Pat Mahomes. And I think we're going to see a repeat of the AFC Championship game that we saw last year.
Yeah, and my picks when the playoffs started, Matt, was Bills and 49ers in the Super Bowl. I'm staying with my 49ers pick. If somehow all roads lead to 49ers Philadelphia, that's going to be a very good game, and it's going to be in Philly, not in California, so that might play an element into it. Who knows? My heart really wants like Jacksonville to somehow escape all of this, but I don't know if they have the firepower to go up against a Bills or a Bengals. So that's going to be interesting, but we'll see with the Cowboys. Who's your pick tonight? Tom Brady has not lost.
I'm not going against Tom Brady. And I want to see what happens in Dallas if they lose. I really want to see the world burn. I want to see the Cowboy. I want to see what happens, I want to see what happens there. So I think I'm going with Tom Brady. I'm not going with the Buccaneers. I'm going with Tom Brady.
Tom Brady has not lost in his career to the Dallas Cowboys ever. Nope. So that's where I'm going to. How about this? Do you think that Dak is sort of like Kirk Cousins?
Ooh.
And that being a, for lack of a better term, a choke artist, because if they lose this game, Matt, this is just crazy. And I just saw a number today before we came on, and Tom Brady by himself has 35 playoff wins. The Dallas Cowboys as a franchise has 35 playoff wins.
Oh my God.
Crazy number.
That is crazy. Yeah. I mean, Dak, he's definitely not in that top tier. I think we can say that, right? He is not in that top tier. So yeah, he's in the tier with Kirk Cousins. Whatever Kirk Cousins tier is in, what's he in that second, third tier?
Let me ask you this: if the Bills lose, does Josh Allen fall into that tier? Or is that not fair enough yet? Is that too soon?
I feel like it could be too soon, but we're starting to see something. We're starting to, if he does lose and he doesn't make the AFC Championship, I think we're starting to, maybe ask some questions about that whole mental there with Josh Allen. And does he have because I'm not going to say that he can't sling the rock, but when you need him to stand in the pocket, when you need him to make a play and push the ball down the field and not tuck it and run, or is he going to lose his brain and get mad at somebody and get pissed off? I don't know. This Bills Bengals game, I'm really curious how it's going to be, because the last time these two teams played, there was we remember what happened with Hamlin. So I'm very, very curious to see if those pads are going to be popping, or if it's going to be 3/4 of filling each other out, and then they're going to decide to start playing football. You know what I'm saying? Like, that could be very curious too. So that could be detrimental to Josh Allen. There could be some mentality stuff going on there with Josh Allen. If he does lose this game, we got to start having that conversation that he might not be in that upper tier as everyone thought he was when it comes to winning and mentality.
If Jimmy G were playing in these playoffs and San Francisco lost, would he be in that tier as well with Kirk Cousins? Or is he just not good enough? I mean, his teams have always been good around him, but is he just not? Because I think Kirk Cousins is better than Jimmy G.
I do too.
Or does he just not enter that conversation at all?
I don't think he's in that conversation at all, because you remember when he was in the Super Bowl, remember he missed Emmanuel Sanders wide open, probably would have won the game. Those are big time throws that those guys in that upper tier make and put their team over the hump or in the lead or make that play, and I just think that, and I'll even say this too. If Aaron Rodgers hasn't won a Super Bowl already, if he didn't win one Super Bowl, you could look at him as being in that bottom tier. And some people already have him in that tier, but as not being like is right there with Kirk Cousins, because you can't make the throw, can't make the play to put your team over. I've seen it. He lost to the Niners. He lost to the Seahawks. I've seen him. So if he didn't win that Super Bowl, I would think you could probably even make that discussion. So winning and making those plays matter.
Really quick question before we get on out of here, as this just came across the screen, Matt, as we were talking. Cowboys are looking for their first playoff road win in 30 years. So that's just a crazy number as well.
Poor Cowboys, right? Poor America's team.
Let me ask you this, and it's kind of a and B type question. First part of the question is, if San Francisco were to win the Super Bowl, do they go after Tom Brady next year, like reports are saying, or do they stick with Brock Purdy, or where do they go at quarterback? Because if Brock Purdy wins them a Super Bowl, Matt, I don't think Trey Lance and or Jimmy G are on this team next year.
I know Jimmy G's gone for sure. We can almost guarantee Jimmy G's gone, for sure. But then now you have a Purdy Lance problem.
A Purdy Lance problem.
A Purdy Lance problem. That's something, man, because it's like, God, do you want to bring this guy in? I mean, Tom Brady would fit right in this offense, because all he has to do is hand the ball off and throw to running backs and receivers. He doesn't have to do much. This team is built for a guy like that to come in and keep going. I think they do. And I think they bring him in because Purdy, he still has to develop. This could be just all a mirage. This could just be a run. This could just be momentum, right? Because you watch this dude in Iowa State, he looked like crap. He's running all over the place. And I mean, he did not look like this. So could this be, and everybody's starting to complain or compare him to what Tom Brady did. You can't discredit that there's nothing wrong with, because remember this, didn't Tom Brady go back to the bench and Drew Bledsoe started the next year until a couple games and then he was gone? Or wasn't that situation? I could see that happening here too. I mean, why not? Why not bring Tom Brady in? Even if you do win the Super Bowl, bring him in and then put a Purdy back there to back up, and just the same situation. I could totally freaking see that. Totally. It'd be better than him going to Las Vegas.
Right. And the flip side, the other side to this question is, Matt, if Tampa Bay somehow wins the Super Bowl this year, is that it for Tom Brady, or does he continue?
I don't know. I thought last year was it. I don't know. You would think so, right? You would think that that's it. That's it. I'm done. I don't need to go win, 10 Super Bowls. Like
That would be, that would, if he wins this year, it'd be 8, right? 8?
8. It'd be 8 this year. And, honestly, Mike, if he stays healthy and he does, my God, say if he does win this year and if he does win this year and he goes to San Francisco anyway, it's very conceivably that if he stays healthy with that team, the way that team is built right now, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, they'll probably add to it. They'll probably sign another running back, build that offensive, make that offensive line even better than what it is.
Not only the players on offense, their defense is good.
Right.
Bosa is a beast. And not only that, Matt, who knows what's going to happen with DeMarco Ryan as defensive coordinator, but Kyle Shanahan as your head coach.
I could totally see Tom Brady going over there and being in the perfect position to win 10 Super Bowls, because we can win 2 more, because that team is so set. We've talked about that team. Like I don't know how many times I know we've had discussions about the Niners. Are they for real? And I've said in the past, I don't think they are right now, just because of this and that. But they've been the most consistent. They go and they win games on the road. What they did last year with Green Bay and then Dallas, they're just, I mean, they're prepared to do all this stuff. And you throw a guy like Tom Brady in there in that mix, even in Tom Brady now, man, who knows?
Yeah, crazy to think about. But questions that we will ponder as the playoffs roll on. We're going to get out of here, turn over to the game, which is getting ready to go as we speak. And I think we're both picking Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, baby. TB12.
Not the Buccaneers, not the Cowboys. Tom Brady. 7-0, Matt, against the Cowboys in his career. And the same amount of playoff wins as Dallas as a franchise by himself. And Cowboys haven't won a road playoff game in 30 years. The numbers, if you're a numbers person, they do not add up to what the Cowboys are looking for. So we'll do that. And of course, the Mike McCarthy situation we'll keep an eye on.
That's interesting.
Want to thank you for listening or watching. Once again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at 5280 Sports Radio. And you can follow Rocky Mountain Sports Network on Facebook or Instagram at Rocky MTNSN, on Twitter as well, RM Sports Network. Follow Matt at Matt Mascarenas1, at me at Michael Spillman, or at 5280 Sports Radio. We're going to get out of here. Enjoy the last game of Super Wildcard Weekend, and hopefully we'll see you next week for the divisional round, Matt. That'll be another good weekend.
Yes, sir.
All right, everyone. Want to thank you once again for listening, watching, however you get your sports information. Once again, thank you so much. And this has been Elevation 5280 Sports on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network.